Madam Deputy Speaker, for calling me, and it's a pleasure to follow the honourable gentleman from Harrow East. Some members may be wondering why I'm speaking in this debate as a Welsh member, because obviously housing is a devolved matter to the National Assembly for Wales, and the Welsh Government will be bringing its own bill before the Assembly this year, which bans letting fees in the private rented sector. And the Welsh Government consulted widely on the issue, and the findings from their consultation have added to the ample evidence, a lot of which we've heard here today, that action is needed to address the fees that are currently charged to tenants. Just a couple of highlights from it. 56% of all respondents to the consultation agreed with an outright ban on unnecessary fees. 62% of tenants said that fees had affected their ability to move into a rented property. 86% said that fees had affected their decision to use a letting agency. And astonishingly, 61% of landlords did not know what their tenants were charged by the letting agent. Now, I don't doubt that the experiences of tenants in Wales differs greatly from those in England. And so I welcome this bill, and I'm very pleased to see that those introductory fees will be banned, and I hope will be banned throughout the UK. My constituency of Cardiff Central has the 5th highest proportion of privately rented accommodation of any constituency in the UK. And this is largely, although not exclusively, due to the fact that it has the 3rd highest proportion of full-time students of any constituency. Nearly 37% of my constituents live in private rented homes, and many of them are families. And every single week I see constituents in my advice surgeries, just like many members here, who are living in expensive, cramped accommodation for whom tenants' fees are a constant worry. And this is yet another worry to add to insecure employment, low pay, cuts to social security and housing benefits, a publicly funded legal advice desert. And so when rent arrears have got to the point where eviction is imminent, there is no help available, and obviously eye-watering levels of student debt. So banning letting agency and landlord fees is very welcome. I think it's a cash cow, it's gone on for too long. Some agents are using it as a scam, and it needs to stop. And if there are other university constituency members here in this debate, no doubt they will recognise the picture that I'm about to paint. There are some of the larger streets in my constituency where almost in the entire street is family homes that have been converted into student lets. So streets of about 200 properties, each of them with 8 or more students living in them. And as I go down those streets and I knock doors and speak to constituents, I add up in my head the total amount paid every single year in letting agency fees by those residents. And there's a street in one of the wards in my constituency, Cathays, where each resident will pay, on average, £200 as a letting agency fee. And between them, in that one street, every year letting agencies are making a minimum of £320,000 every single year. So never mind Ponzi schemes or PPI scandals, this is the scandal that has lined the pockets of some letting agents who are parasitic, greedy and unscrupulous, and it's gone on for far too long. And it's based, as we've heard already in this debate, like so many other things, on an imbalance of power. Student tenants and low-income families have no power in this relationship. This is what one constituent wrote to me, having had a dreadful experience with a Cardiff letting agency. He said, "They are leeching people for all that they can, and there is nothing to stop them. They're brazen. They know they're screwing you over, and they know that you know that they're screwing you over, and they don't care because there are no consequences and they hold all the power." My experience representing constituents living in the private rented sector is that the fees charged are almost always completely arbitrary and unjustifiable. And here's another view from a constituent. Students and low earners are bled dry by these lizards to the tune of hundreds of pounds a year, all to live in rotting accommodation which can be dangerous to live in. And another example. One student said to me, in the small print of our contract, it said the letting agency will take £65 from each of us in our student house for professional cleaning, regardless of the condition the house is left in. So I was quite annoyed then to find that they hadn't even bothered with this professional cleaning for us when we moved in. The kitchen was leaking and rotting, a ceiling collapsed within a week due to an upstairs leak, The bathrooms reeked and were mouldy. A microwave nearly caught fire and exploded. But we were told by the letting agency it wasn't their problem. So the truth is that there are many of these fees that are completely arbitrary. They mean nothing. At most, they constitute a few minutes of basic administration using tenancy agreement templates and the ability to cut and paste. And yet agencies and landlords can just name their price at the moment. So I welcome the government's bill. I think this racket needs to end, all of it, and fast.
Eddie Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I refer to my member interests with regard to the fact that I am an accidental